Hello! Today I'm sharing my quick bread cornbread because it's Thursday and I love to prepare my baked goods for the weekends. I'm Roxy and welcome to my kitchen. Yay! This weekend is my birthday and every weekend, not every weekend, but every birthday we make mac and cheese. And what pairs more perfectly with mac and cheese? What comfort food can you think of? I guess it's a little obvious, but cornbread goes with barbecue, goes with chili, makes great stuffing, and I love it so much. So this was just perfect timing for me. This cornbread is the perfect balance between a northern and southern cornbread. It's just the right amount of sugar, so it has just the right amount of sweetness, and that sugar lends itself to being helping this be tender and moist, and you can definitely substitute with honey. That works great too. So this is a foolproof recipe. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you, and let's get started. Hi Terry, thank you for joining. There are no special pieces of equipment, or I feel like you can find most of these things in most cupboards, with the exception of stone ground cornbread. That's just going to give you the best cornbread. I measure all of my ingredients with a scale, but I'll also list out exactly the US metric for it to help out. If you like a crispier cornbread, grease a cast iron pan and place it in the oven for 10 minutes. Then you'll want to scoop your batter and into the hot pan and return it to the oven. And I'll get more into the details on that. But today we are going to make it in an 8x8 cake pan. And as always, I have my recipe here as well as my notes. So if you've been here before, I love to line with 2 pieces of parchment paper and clips. So here we go. I did this in advance. And the reason why I like to do it this way is it still rises perfectly, and then it's so easy to remove once it's cooled. Just really low key. Did that, setting it aside. Muffins work too. This makes a dozen. So that's a simple swap as well as far as formats go. And yes, so preheat your oven at this point to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. I am going to bake upstairs right after this, but I do have the cornbread to show you, and we'll still go through this. Let's get into the ingredients. We're going to need 1/3 1 3/4 cup, I don't know why I said that before, 206 grams of all-purpose flour or your gluten-free all-purpose flour. So both work. I've tried them now and they're really great. Then let's do it as we go. So here's my flour. Then we will want 1 cup, 156 grams of the corn flour. Ta-da! And by the way, guys, I have a blog and I will be listing all of the details there as well, just to make it easier to come back to. So I'm just going to sift that. Yikes. How's your day going, Terry? I don't have my cameraman here today, my camera person. But perfect. And then the sugar, you don't have to worry about sifting. And this is a habit. If you have a whisk and you get all of the dry ingredients together, you can just easily mix it that way. But this is 1/4 cup of sugar, which is 50 grams of white sugar. Really, interestingly enough, John of Preppy Kitchen and a lot of bakers use brown sugar. That's more the southern style. And I like the balance of the two. Now let's do 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So the most common mistake with this recipe is mismeasuring flour. If you want to do it, here's a tip. If you want to do it correctly, you want to scoop in, say this is my measuring cup, you want to scoop, you want to whisk the flour, get it nice and fluffy, scoop it in, and then level it with a knife. Then you have the right amount. So that was 1/4 a teaspoon of baking soda, and then about 1/2 to 3/4 teaspoon of salt. It's really to taste. If all you have is salted butter, then you can omit this. But to repeat the dry ingredients, 1 3/4 cup, 206 grams of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of cornmeal, that's 156 grams, 1/4 cup of sugar, that's 50 grams, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 to 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I use pink Himalayan salt. It's what my mom uses. That's what I like to use too. What was that? I saw something white in here. Okay. Just my imagination. Oh, that. Oh, it's a clump of sugar. I knew I saw something. I have really good eyesight. So I did that in a medium bowl. Now I'm going to take care of my wet ingredients. I like to put the butter and the eggs together. That's 1 egg, and then 4 tablespoons of butter, 56 grams. And I like to stir that. Sometimes when I get it into the bigger format, the egg yolk gets away from me. It's escaping from the fork. So I pre-do this. Just do it on the cutting board so that it doesn't leak over. And then I have 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, that's 50 grams, that I'm going to add to this 1 1/4 cup of room temperature, room temperature milk, 238 grams of milk. So this is all going to get incorporated together. This is really nice because if I wasn't doing a live, this truly is a 1 bowl recipe. You get everything in from all of your bags and get the wet ingredients like just into 1 cup. It's very simple, and stir. So let me get that into the sink. And now I'm going to incorporate. One of the tips that I want to give you is that buttermilk works great too. It's just that that's not a very common ingredient. If you want to use buttermilk, just add 1 teaspoon of vinegar to the milk and let it sit at room temperature for 10 minutes. It'll start to curdle. That's becoming a buttermilk. What's nice about that is that it adds a nice tang to your quick bread. So it's very easy. Now you're gonna just pour this in all at once. No hassle. Ooh. I already told you guys to turn on the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, right? I think so. Then we just stir. We just get everything. This is what it looks like so far. Oh, I usually try to show you along the way. But who's here? Oh, sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the chats. I enjoy you being here. Thank you so much. You're so nice. Thank you for joining me so I'm not all alone. pro tip time. If you want to add fresh corn, you can. It's so good. Fresh corn, canned corn's nice too. Just bake it for 3 extra minutes. Look how nice and thick this is. So now we're just gonna add it to the baking pan. So you can scoop it into your baking tins if you're gonna do muffins. If you wanna keep it lined or unlined, that's fine. And we will bake this for 25 minutes or until the edges slightly pull away in the corners. So that's very well incorporated. Let me just tap, 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 tap. Let me see what other notes I have. Yeah, so when it's done, when you remove it from the oven, you're just gonna want to let it cool for 5 to 15 minutes. So earlier I mentioned the cast iron pan tip. Well, with that, you're gonna cook it the 20 to 24 minutes, but you wanna check at 15 minutes because of the format that it's in, it cooks a lot quicker. So let's see. So these are my most frequently asked questions. When it's done, how do I store it? Well, you can store it at room temperature in a sealed container for a week and it stays pretty fresh at room temperature. You can freeze it for up to 2 months. I've never had cornbread last that long. I'll eat it as snacks throughout the day. I will, if it ever seems like it's gotten stale, I will break it up and toast it and in the oven and put it in salad. And it's so good. This smells really, you can smell the corn. I was gonna say it smells really corny, but it smells like corn. And then what is the most common mistake? That's the addition of too much flour. And how long should I rewarm it in the microwave? For 15 seconds is perfect. I especially like to warm up cornbread in the oven though, because it gets like that nice golden brown. It's really nice. It's a very thick batter. I feel like I'm just spreading it on the thing. And then here it is in my pan. See how having this kind of just holds it together. Hey, look at my flowers. Random. Mini loaves. A lot of people like to make mini loaves. So I've done that. So I do have a tip around that. Use 3 comma 3 1/4 by 5 3/4 and 2 1/4 mini loaf pans, and just use 1/3 of the batter per pan, so that's like 1 cup of the batter, and bake in the 375 Fahrenheit oven for 23 to 28 minutes. So a little different as far as timing goes, but that might be kind of the format that you need for your family or whatever function, or sometimes it's more fun if you're making it with kids to do it in this particular format. And it's kind of, maybe it's just what you have around. How can you fancy this up? Okay, so cheese is an obvious choice. My partner might like something like that. Jalapenos, I feel like he would like that as well. You can chop up herbs, spice mixes, the shredded cheese I just mentioned, hot peppers, jalapeno, basically anything that would go good with Mexican food seems like it would be a great complement to this. And even slicing vegetables on top would be really nice too. So those are all the notes that I have. And I'm just gonna set this aside and then kind of give you the tasting notes. So, I give this a 10 out of 10 because it's the recipe that I made and I love it. So of course, bakers make things to their own taste, but I'm super happy to share my foolproof recipe with you. It's It's not the prettiest cake, and I say that because it's just all one color, you know, but the edges are brown. It gets higher in the center of the pan, and then it kind of crackles a little bit at the top, which all quick breads usually do. And this cornbread is, again, the perfect balance between a northern and southern cornbread because it's not too sweet. For me, I don't usually cook this with honey. I've tried it multiple times, but if you want that honey flavor, it's the best when you just put it directly on as a topping. Honey cornbread, I still think it's technically honey cornbread, even if it's not baked into it. What else do I want to tell you? It has a really pleasing corn flavor because the flour doesn't overpower the corn, and especially if you use stone ground cornbread. And my cake is super easy to unmold because I taught you my favorite trick around parchment paper and clips. And light, silky, not dry, easy to remove. I hate that word demold. I hate using the word mold when I'm talking about food, but it's just right. Perfect amount of sweetness. I hope you enjoyed my live baking class. Let me check here if there are any. Anna Sparkles, hi. Thank you so much for joining. I love my flowers too, and it came with a balloon. Apparently someone thinks I'm the best, but I think you guys are the best. I do this every Thursday at 5:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I have a bunch of zucchini in my garden that's huge, and so I'm hoping to do a few zucchini recipes. A zucchini chocolate chip loaf, and then maybe just the classic cake. So let me know in the comments below what you might prefer to see in the future. And again, I hope you enjoyed this live baking class. I'm gonna save my calories for the cornbread that I'm about to bake so I can eat it nice and fresh with my partner for dinner tonight. So thank you. See you soon. Did I answer all the questions? Thanks, you guys. I'm gonna go turn the camera off.